So this is an interesting topic. We are talking about reimagining leadership. In the last 2 days, we've heard a lot about why leadership hasn't been working, whether it's a school environment or whether it's a corporate environment. And I think this is a great opportunity that how do we reimagine leadership, especially in an educational institution post-pandemic. So can everybody hear me? Yeah, this is better? Oh, okay. All right. So I'll just, I'd like to introduce our esteemed panel. I need to take my glasses off because I can't read with my glasses on. So we've got Mrs. Humaira Junaid. She is the Quality Assurance Head, His Highness Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum, Pakistan School, Dubai. Humaira Junaid dedicates her career to improving students' educational experiences and promoting lifelong learning. She has held various leadership positions, and in these roles, she has remained committed to giving equal opportunity to quality education to children of unprivileged families in the Pakistan community in UAE. Please welcome Humaira Junaid. Our second esteemed panelist is Maja Michalewska, if I'm right, founder and CEO, Transformational Leadership and Wellness Coach, Elevate, Sustain, Prosper. Maja is a visionary leader, transformational leadership coach, and wellness expert dedicated to empowering change makers and sustainability leaders worldwide. She founded Elevate, Sustain, and Prosper, an organization that offers VIP coaching, group programs, and an innovative leadership framework to elevate leadership wellness expertise. Please welcome Maja. Once again, we have Sawan Kapoor, we just saw in the last 2 minutes.
Can I get rid of me?
Sawan is India's leading career coach. He runs Dire to Hire Solutions, a job search, job application, and career management firm, and has impacted more than 200,000 career aspirants. That's fantastic. His mission is to help 1 million career aspirants and working professionals land their dream job. Great job, Sawan. Give him a good hand. And last but not the least, we have Zainab Asif, Head of Department, American International School. Zainab Asif is an instructional leader in an American International School in Dubai with over 10 years of classroom experience, subject coordination, and coaching responsibilities. She has demonstrated leadership qualities to train and help teachers upgrade their teaching strategies. Zainab also received an Outstanding Leader Award in 2020 from Athena Education. Give her a big hand. Microphone. Okay, good. So maybe
Do you want?
take it.
I can shift it.
No, that's all right. Okay. So, can I have? All right.
You might need this.
Yes, absolutely.
You're welcome. Have a great panel.
Thank you. So it's really great to have all of you once again, and we've met this morning as well, and we've had some really good conversations. So the first question I have for the panel today is, in terms of understanding the pitfalls in our education system, and that's been talked about a lot over the last 2 days. What's not working? We've talked about that a lot. But from your perspective, given your leadership expertise in educational institution, in the health and wellness sector, and in leadership, if I were to give 1 minute each, what would you say is the number one, if there was only one biggest pitfall in our educational system, what would that look like for yourselves? Why not, Humaira, would you kick off?
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, one pitfall is a really difficult thing to find out, but still I feel that our teaching qualification itself is lagging. We've been talking about well-being, emotional intelligence, empowerment, and when you look at the curriculum or the courses which are included in the teaching qualification which make you a licensed teacher, all of them, all of these, the ones that I've just mentioned, are never there. We are only talking about lesson planning, differentiation, classroom management, same old things. We need to revamp. We need to rethink. We need to include these modules into the teaching qualification so that every teacher who comes into the classroom is kind of ready for it.
Right. Okay, awesome, very good, thank you. How about Sawan?
So your question again was, what is the number one pitfall?
Wonder what pitfall do you see in the educational system that you'd like to share?
I think the pitfall is, again, there's a lack of an understanding of soft skills and a lack of understanding of interpersonal mastery that is required at the level of administrators and at the level of educators to be able to groom these young minds in the manner that they need to be shaped, whether it be school education or even collegiate education. I remember back in school there used to be a subject called moral science, and I think we were talking about this earlier on our call. And it was the class period was about 30 or 45 minutes, and it was once a week. And it was in a class like that where they used to address such topics, So I loved the class, but half an hour every week was nowhere close to what was required to help me understand and get a more realistic sense of what it's going to take to create happiness in life, to create abundance in life, and to create the outcomes that I'm looking for. So I think that would be probably the number one area for me.
Excellent, excellent. Maja, how about you?
From my own experience at academia, because I'm not an educator with youth, but myself among students, is that we look at other people only from neck up. We just see the mind and intellect. And I think what we're missing is to look at the person holistically, including the body, because the body is the map of the soft skills. That's where the compassion lives. That's where other skills that we're needing so badly after pandemic are actually based. It's the whole body and not only the mind. So looking holistically.
Absolutely, excellent. Asifa.
For me, I feel like what we are seeing now is a limited exposure that our students are having with the emerging industries. We've not updated our curriculum, we've not updated our teaching strategies yet to meet the expectations of future career that our students have to be ready with. We've not embedded those complexities and real life skills that are required that the students need to know that have been kind of disappearing with the post-pandemic stage. So I think emphasis on updating the curriculum, updating the strategies and methodologies is the top priority at the moment.
So what would you say, how would you say, from an educator's point of view, how would you reimagine leadership now?
I think we have to, in general, see how we are going to redefine the term itself, where leadership was more on one person managing the whole decision making, should now be a collaborative effort from all stakeholders, parents, students, teachers, getting everyone involved in that shared vision. Because when you are sharing a common vision, you know the path. And you're clear about the expectations, you're clear about those goals. You're all moving in the same journey. So I think that if we are, from the educator's point of view, if I know where I am leading and if I'm getting that supportive network to move in that path, then things will be easier, will be much clearer to execute. If I have a leader who only thinks about one person giving a power and command, then I don't have the ownership there. I need to have a voice and choice as well, as a student, as a teacher. So I think that when we have such decisions, we need to involve students as well. Because sometimes you may be amazed with the contribution that they can make in this. They know things better than what you may see.
Excellent, thank you. What would your take be on that, Humaira?
I think we should be welcoming to the changes around us.
Mm-hmm.
Modifications, adaptations, all of these are very important for leadership, especially post-pandemic.
Right.
And just like AI, it is becoming a worldwide fear as well. We must understand that it is just an assistant to us. Just like anyone would have a domestic assistant, and that augments your performance in the world. You are able to give back to community. Similarly, with AI, you'll be able to invest your thought, your energies into something more positive.
Yes.
So I believe that we should be welcoming all possible changes around us.
Excellent. What about you, Sawan? How would you reimagine leadership from an educator's point of view?
You know, all such valid points. I mean, in fact, the entire conference over the last 2 days, I think, you know, this particular topic, leadership in general, has been discussed a lot, and there have been such rich perspectives. Reimagining leadership at this level for me would be, you know, there needs to be a support structure put in place for the educators. And I think that's important because, you know, it's going to get them to imbibe the depth of those lessons, not just subject matter expertise, but the development part of it, and teach better how to be able to pass that on. I think the problem with this area is that, you know, personal development or soft skill training, it's outside of one's direct experience. So it's very easy to intellectually understand, but until you go through it, you know, it's very hard to be able to fully imbibe. You climb a small hill or you go climb Mount Everest, you're going to be out of breath in both places. Right. But the reality of what you experience, you know, when you're in the death zone and the blizzards and the -40 temperature, that can't be explained vicariously. It has to be experienced to a certain degree to be truly understood. So I think if there's one thing that I could, you know, do to reimagine leadership is for educators to have that, because the challenge that I see that they have is that, you know, the target is moving. The world is evolving at a pace that's so fast. We're trying to get people ready for an environment that we're not able to fully figure out. So, and I'm sure every generation has been able to say that it's, you know, the world is changing. But, well, then we are headed in a progressive direction because it is truly changing like never before.
Interesting, very good. Maya, how about you? How would you reimagine? Because you've got a very different take on this whole leadership subject, so I'm quite interested in listening to how you see this.
Actually, I would like to echo your point. Yesterday we had lunch with Danny, and he told me that the word change causes in you resistance. So I would actually echo and upgrade the personal development of educators, so they can lead from presence. Because I think once you're present as a leader, as educator, you can see what's happening around you. You can see your students, you can see others, you can see your environment, your ecosystem. So you can adjust, regulate according to what's happening. So I think personal development for educators, it's a must, because we need to change the system now, especially, and I want to shout out to this beautiful team from Hong Kong that shared with us social entrepreneurship that is based on 17 SDGs. The last SDG, number 17, is partnerships. We need to collaborate among universities, schools, educational institutions to learn from each other so we can actually achieve this upgrade.
Yes, yes. Excellent. I think all your comments are very valid because you come from very different places. One thing I was thinking about, I was looking at how would I reimagine it, and an analogy I use is that, let's say we enter into this room, and this room is a big, like a library, but the library has only 2 books. On the one side, the book says, Effortless Success, 5 Keys to Abundance, Prosperity, Health, and Happiness. And there's another book that says, Struggle Your Way to Success, 5 Keys to Work Hard and Struggle Your Way to Success. Which book would you buy? So I think that's a very important concept to think about when we are reimagining, because right now I feel that the education system is a lot about work hard, struggle. If you don't struggle, struggle equals success. If you want to be successful, you've got to work really, really hard. So we have these beliefs around success that are not very empowering and inspiring for people, especially students, because that's the feedback my daughters give me, actually. So I really kind of felt that reimagining it to think that success is just would come naturally to us when we are in alignment with our heart and mind, we're in alignment with the passion and, you know, our purpose that we want to achieve, it becomes a much easier road, and that's how I was kind of reimagining it. But anyways, let's move on to this question, which I thought is very important because given the fact that we've been talking a lot about leadership, let's look at how do we really take action and put this into, like what Rachel was saying, tomorrow morning when we go home, well, how do we change? So let's imagine that your government makes you the Minister of Education today, right? They give you unlimited budget, unlimited resources, and say, what will you do in the next 90 days to bring 3 real upgrades and changes to the education system, and you have full reign to do whatever you want? What would that look like for you? Maya, go ahead. You're smiling.
Okay, I will start with a very provocative statement, so please take what resonates and leave what doesn't. 90 days are more or less 3 moon cycles, and I think what we need, not only in education but in our system in general, is to shift from a very patriarchal system where we're just growth-oriented and we work 24/7 to a system that is cyclical and more nature-based. So we can achieve not only our sustainability goals, but also everything that we aim in our society. Equality, equity, and so forth. So that's so important for us, female leaders and educators. We are not trapped, but we're blessed with this female body, and it works just as nature, cyclical. And it's not easy, and I want to name that because sometimes it's just a taboo, that it's not easy to be in a system that is designed for this more all the time growing, never changing energy. And I think once we allow this space for cyclical, for rest, for digest, for growth, and for harvest, we can see change in many levels. And we can allow space for everybody to be included and have a moment to just take a break and breathe. And then the pace of our ever-changing world would also just feel natural to us and not so scary. So if that feels provocative to you, please just take a moment and breathe. But that's what I do when I work with sustainability leaders, because that's the first what I hear from them when I tell them just take a moment and have a break. Take 3 days off when you're on your moon cycle. They cannot do that. Their organizations don't allow for that, right? So 90 days, it's a great time to test, implement.
Yes.
So yeah, 3 moon cycles.
How would you involve the nervous system? You talked a lot about nervous system 2 days ago. So how would that be, how would you introduce something like that in the education system?
I think because we are part of nature and an ecosystem, we have this amazing planet moving around us, the moon, which shows us the cycle. So there are tools available online, there are apps if someone is not familiar with the cycle of the moon, and how simple it is to divide it into 4 phases.
Right.
And just working according to those phases, even within organizations. And that's what my colleagues from Ayurvedic field actually applied in their organizations across the globe. It is possible where you use the time to the spring time when you kind of think about ideas, put seeds into the soil. That's a metaphor, of course. For some, maybe farmers, it's more literal. Yes. Then you have a phase of harvesting and kind of working. That's the hard-working phase, right? Then is the first of autumn, of rest, of like thinking, understanding what has happened, what have we learned, how can we improve. And then there is the most important and the most omitted nowadays, the winter phase, the phase of rest and time to actually go within and see what can we improve in the next cycle. Okay, so that's in a nutshell, Danny.
All right, there you go. So now your government is going to appoint you very soon. Humaira, what about you? What are the top 3 things that you would put into action if you were given this position as a Minister of Education for UAE?
Danny is putting us into all into action. I think we need to rethink the data-driven approach that we have towards organization, let it be corporate sector or education sector. Now, I feel that in the effort to collect data for everything, even for well-being, we have apps. Every child has to rate it so that leaders can actually see how many students are happy and how many students are sad today. So this data-driven approach is basically engaging and using the energy of the teachers into something that is less important, I believe. Human observation. The teacher who's in the classroom, she's the leader of that place. She knows she can see how many students are happy. Perhaps the times that she's going to utilize marking that these number of students are happy, these are sad, she might utilize that time to make the sad ones happy rather. So because we are measuring success, because we're measuring everything actually, and that too much measurement is creating this chaos. So we need to kind of rethink, is this much data really important? Can we kind of, reduce it to evaluate ourselves? And what is the importance of human observation? We are completely negating it. Whenever you're talking to your leaders and you're telling, well, I saw that. You saw what? In numbers. I felt it. Your feelings are also not important. It's only something that shows, that's tangible, that can be evaluated. So this is the first thing I would like to kind of revamp. And I feel that we should actually start celebrating progress, not only achievement. Because there's a lot of celebration around achievements, but the little steps that every student is making, the little effort that he is doing, that must be equally celebrated. And thirdly, I would say, rather request all the organizations, all the government organizations who are responsible for inspections, I would suggest that they should reduce the number of inspections. I mean, it's a yearly process, and it keeps the leaders running after developing that data to prove that they're doing a good job.
That's a very good point.
If we could actually put effort into something that is visible across the school. As we talk about changing cultures, you can't do that because you have 3 months break in between, and then you have inspection coming ahead, your self-evaluating forms, your strategic plans, everything, so much documentation in way. So I feel there should be a gap. Inspection should be there, quality should be assured, because I'm myself doing that all the time, but I think less frequently.
That's excellent points. I hope the government is listening on YouTube. You might be appointed tomorrow. All right, how about you, Asif? How would you tackle this in the next 90 days if you were given unlimited budget, unlimited resources?
You're giving a dream situation for all the educators. Before I move on to what I think, I want to share something that I read probably a few months ago. There was this Emirati student who kind of built a device which could be placed in the buses just because we had consequences like students left in the bus and the death happens. So she was, she was really upset with that, and she came up with a very nice device, which was kind of a sensor that the driver would come to know if the student is left behind. And then she said in an interview that I wish that after this invention, there are no more deaths because of this. So that day when I'm just making my adjustments in the curriculum, I just felt like, how about I change a question? I change my vision to a question where, how would that education look like if I had figured out a way to nurture curiosity and passion of those students than depending on those grades, which I don't know till where they will need. Because when I'm sitting in an interview, all I'm asked about is my skills, my competencies, my expertise areas, but no one's actually checking my grading sheet. So why run behind those numbers? I think the school should move on to approach of this collaboration rather than competitiveness, We don't need competition. We want students to excel in the areas they are expertise in. We want them to identify those skills that they are expertise in, and we need to give them those opportunities where they feel confident to show that. Because if I know that I am maybe good at collaborating, I'm good at teamwork, but I'm not good with math, why would that show on my grading sheet? So even moving away from grading system to more of a rubric approach, maybe, if I make sense, that ranking system where you get a detailed assessment of the students' achievements, strengths, areas of improvement, rather than giving numbers and labeling. So I think moving to that approach might make our students more lifelong learners and making them prepared for the real-world complexities. The other thing that attaches with this is that reframing, redesigning the framework, which is more focused on skills rather than data, as Ms. Humaira mentions. We can move on to more of identifying those skills, evaluating, finding ways to evaluate those skills. For example, having project-based learning. That would help. I don't want them to do assessment papers. I want them to collaborate, come up with solutions for real-world problems. And through that, I am encouraging teamwork. You know, these skills, these values have been faded with this pandemic where this isolation happened, students' well-being has been affected. So when I am incorporating this kind of learning in my classroom, I am giving more chance to the students who might have felt isolated, who might have felt that they cannot contribute just because they don't have that knowledge. We don't need, the knowledge is available everywhere. It's the skills that I need to work on. So I think that is essential right now. And moving on to why I should wait for a college and university to have internship programs. Why can't I have it in school? I want my students to expose to the market, get that exposure, what is waiting for them, what kind of career is there in the market. I will expose, have more collaborative opportunities with the companies, with the market, with parent partnerships. So when I'm bringing those communities inside the school, I'm actually making more sense to my students for what they're learning and what they have to be ready with. So I think if we are working on these major areas, we are anyway redefining leadership.
All right, excellent. So now we've got 2 ministers in UAE, not 1. Excellent. Very good, very good. Thank you. Sawan, what would your take be on this?
Thank you for allowing me the time to think about things. I would say, I agree with the perspective shared. I think in the pandemic, we saw, countries led by women tackle the mess much better. I mean, New Zealand, Finland, Taiwan, they all did much better with tackling the thing. So I can understand where you were coming from. And if there were 3 things and an unlimited budget, I think the first thing I would do is to bring focus to that soft skill development for educators, establish that as a priority. The second thing I would do is make it part of the policy framework, but at the same time, that policy has to be designed by the people implementing it and not by somebody else sitting in a different location. Yeah. It has to be self-regulating, and it cannot be a one-size-fits-all. It has to be customized for a local environment. Yeah. It has to be customized for the people that will have to abide by it, and it has to be inclusive in that those people must have input into the design and content of how that comes to life. Yeah. And the third thing I would do is I would possibly make investments in simulators and gamify the education experience. And I say that from the perspective of, again, be able to provide that first-hand experience to somebody in an environment where they're actually responsible for the outcomes. And the first time they do it, they shouldn't know that this is simulated. It should feel like they're actually going through a real experience.
Okay, excellent. That's great, Sawan. I think what all 4 of you are saying is, and something we use in corporate leadership is it's quite common. We say that are you a leader who is worth following? It's very important. There are many leaders these days, but very few are worth following. So would you say, am I a leader who works on the business or somebody who works in the business? And I think everyone, when you are given the power to change, you start working on the business. You see, the very instance you get the resources and you put in a position of power to make a change, you immediately up-level yourself. And then all your answers are very much aligned to, all right, how do I use this power as a force for good? So, which is fantastic. All right, so we've got a very short time. We've got only 7 minutes. Anyone for any questions? Anyone would like to ask any questions to the panel? Wow, you've done a great job. Yeah. No actions. All right, so one question I would have would be, if there was one or two things that you would say that the teachers would need training in immediately to put all these actions into, implement them, what would those things look like from your perspective? Asifa, anything from you?
I think teachers should know how to have those interdisciplinary learning opportunities where cross-curricular integrations and how students learn in the best way, integrating all the subjects and allowing the project-based learning. That would be my top priority at the moment, where I want teachers to move their focus from knowledge-based teaching to more of that skill-based teaching. That would be my priority. And a second would be empowering teacher agencies. I know that I want followers, but I do want to make more leaders as well. So for that, I want my teachers to have that power. I want them to be there with me, professionally develop. I want them to take part in the decision making. So appreciating them, motivating them, and then making them a part of the decision making and how they can take wise decisions would be somewhere that I would want to work.
Sawan, what would you say would be one or two things that the teachers need to really learn immediately to kind of implement the things you just talked about?
Well, this time you've not given me not much time to think about it. But if there's one or two things that teachers need to do, I think in my capacity as a coach for working professionals, I would say that sometimes we're so close to the issue, we also need to be able to accept that feedback and to evolve with that process.
An excellent feedback, yeah.
Otherwise, I think we're being a little hypocritical. In Hinduism, if you go back to, there's an epic written by the name of Ramayana. So it's the story of Lord Ram. And this is not a religious or political discourse. This is just an analogy that I'm using that comes from here. So he was served by another deity that had the body of a monkey, and that was Lord Hanuman. Okay, and he was devoted to Lord Rama, and he used to openly proclaim that I am in a position even better than Rama. Though if you look at it from a perspective of hierarchy, Rama would be the more superior being or the superior god. And when they used to ask him, Hanuman, why do you say that you are in an even luckier or an even better position than Rama? He said, because I have Ram. Ram doesn't have a Ram. I have a set of eyes that could give me feedback. Right. But Ram doesn't have that. So I think it's very important to have that. All of us sometimes can be so close to the issue. It's hard to spot, we see the forest for the trees. And I think that ability to be able to take feedback at the educator level is one very critical thing.
Excellent, excellent.
That can help.
Thank you for that. I'll just pause for a second and ask again if there is any. Come on guys, ask some questions. You've got some real experts sitting here. Any questions from anyone about education? There you go, Dr. Nicolene. Give her a hand.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. As a mother of a 15-year-old, I have a burning question. If, Danny, you asked that same question about education to the panelists, but you replaced education or the system with higher education? What are those changes that we need to see in higher education? Because a lot of what you guys were talking about is kind of at a primary school, middle school, high school level. But then how do we bridge that so that when kids want to go to university, they don't hear, oh, sorry, there is no grade paper. So how would you bridge the school system with tertiary education if you had that same unlimited resources and all of that?
Good question. Humaira.
All right, a very good question indeed.
What your name is.
I think when you talk about higher education, universities today are not grading you, they're not taking your exams as such anymore. They have started they've changed it to assessment, which are graded, but they're in the form of assignments already, which are checking your skills for research, they give you a rubric and they grade you accordingly. So I think it's kind of practiced in the higher education already, and it has to trickle down to school level now. So we've already started doing that in universities. It is more skill-oriented, and it's more research-based, and you're not fed about what you have supposed to learn. Rather, you are given a plethora of knowledge and read literature reviews and literary work, and you have to read through and find it out for yourself, which actually enhances your knowledge to a greater extent. And I can say that, I can vouch that, because I am currently a university student as well. So I would say that it has to trickle down to schools now. The secondary, high secondary level and IGCSEs, they need to actually revamp. Universities have done that already.
Any other views on this question?
I think, thank you for the question. It really, made me think. I think, again, the awareness that needs to take place in an individual to understand what it is that they are going to engage with as they are making that transition from high school to university, or for that matter, even from university to a full-time career. I think that awareness does not take place in the quantum that it needs to when that decision comes up. And that essentially, I think, in my view, is the gap. I think the world is very obsessed with discovering your passion. Because, if you don't get that, you're making the gravest of mistakes. Your passion, I believe, is not something that's hiding under a rock somewhere, to be discovered one fine day. Your passion doesn't have a conspiracy against you. I think a better way to look at it is that you grow into your passion. And I think there is an element of, humanity that we have to recognize, that we are multi-potentialite beings. We can do many things really well. If we test drive that more, I remember back in college I had, different internships. I was in the food industry. My education was in the food industry. And I had an internship in a supermarket, which was fun. I had an internship driving a bread truck between Indianapolis and Atlanta. And I didn't like it at all. And then I had an internship in an office environment. So, having that ability to really test drive careers and options gave me a first world feel for the kind of work that I wanted to do. And had I not had that, I may have been driven only by things like what kind of salary does the company pay, or what kind of progress I'll be able to make in due course. And I think that would have been unfair to be able to flush out the full potential that a person carries.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I know which way. It's time's up, I can see that.
You guys have done a great job.
Thank you so much.
Give them
Thanks
a
to the
round of
panel.
applause, please. Great job. Thank you for your moderation, Yanni. Please, I invite you.